And we're back. The home team, Domagoj Branko and Nikola. Today we are pleased to have a guest, Vitomir Maričić, who is a world record holder in freediving. And that's as far as I'm going to go with that because I know nothing about freediving. So, first we'll tip it off to Vitomir. How you doing?
Doing fine.
Good to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
All right. I actually have one question before everything. How does a young kid in Rijeka want to become a freediver?
It's a good question. Usually people don't want that at an early age because it's just like a marginal sport. It's too small for people to strive to it. But for some reason, I really had that dream. Like I wanted to be a climber or a freediver. And I was absolutely convinced that it's going to be right on the shelf with trying to be an astronaut or something. But eventually life kind of brought me to it. It really wasn't planned out. It happened 10 years ago that I went professionally and competitively into it. I was doing it for my own amusement since, I don't know, the age of 5 probably. And I realized then as I was looking at some results and stuff that I probably am quite talented. In my high school, I was on the level of best Croatian divers without ever knowing anything about it. So I was kind of, it's not developed enough. Then I was busy with team sports, school, drinking, everything that people do at that age. So I never really considered it seriously. But yeah, eventually things led to it. And by accident, after an injury, I found myself in freediving.
And what sports were you doing before that, just out of curiosity?
I was doing many sports on a high level. Just before that, I was quite heavily in climbing, triathlon before, weightlifting, everything on a quite intensive level. But never, I was national champion in several sports, but never outside of Croatia did I have any success like I had with freediving. Like I could only dream of being a world champion in other sports. But this was, for me, immediately obvious after my first tries that, probably I could be good.
Okay, and I have one more question before I throw it off to you, Nikola. You mentioned that there was a natural affinity for the sport. You started to have good results immediately without any major training or practice, right?
Yeah.
How much would you put to just God-given ability vis-a-vis training?
I think let's say the given ability, probably there is something to it because I'm extremely anaerobic. Like I'm super bad at running around the park. So when I was doing triathlon, I was very, very different than any other triathlete, and I was doing it as a personal challenge. I ran marathons, I did that, but it was always like pain and suffering to a crazy extent. But on the other hand, sprinting, weightlifting, things like that, jumping, that was always my thing. I don't have to train for it. I'm going to be decent to perform. So that's probably something that's like inborn. But other than that, just being in the sea a lot as a kid and spending summers with my grandparents in the islands probably created that I don't have a mental barrier with the sea or with depth. I was always going for shells and exploring, and I really never had any fear, which was probably maybe a bit foolish now when I thought about my trainings before. Many people die like that. I was lucky not to go into that, and I never really felt that I'm at any distress or anything similar. So probably mentally I build up some comfort zone under the water. And because of my build, which was reflecting how anaerobic I am, I was always sinking like an axe. So for me, swimming was quite intensive, but then it was so easy just to put on a mask and dive. It was much more natural. But also at a level where I joined, which was when I was already over 30 years, my main advantage over the competition was that I actually came from a professional sport background. So I was already at a high level performing for 10 years, and before that I was always in sports. And the others just didn't have that. They were exploring how to train, what to do with freediving. They were generally freediving to freedive,
You're talking about Croatians on the domestic
No,
level? All
generally
over. Okay.
world level. There's very, very few people that actually had proper introduction, proper training, and a background for that. So I could compete with them very, very quickly just because of my physical preparation. Now it's evident that this is a major factor. So now all of the athletes that are preparing around the world, everyone who is making significant results has some kind of dry preparation, thinks about periodization and goes into that direction. 10 years ago, it was still more like sun gazing, yoga, mindfulness, resting.
Yeah. Just lowering your heart rate and getting mentally prepared.
Yeah, just thinking it's a semi-magical discipline where you.
Well, that's what
connect
I
with
want to
the
ask
moon.
about that. I want to ask how this goes, like how you do it. What do you do when you get in the water? Is there something going through your mind? Like, I want to know the whole process.
Yeah, well, it's. I mean, we could mystify it and see it as something really magical, but we could also say that it's just like any other sport. The only difference I would say is that when we're underwater or when we're breath holding, physiologically, we immediately get to that thing that we call flow or zone or peak performance or hypnosis trance. Like people have these states and then they connect it with something supernatural. But this is actually something that happens all the time in our lives, especially in sports, but usually at a very high level sports, because there's so many things to think about before. Like if you're a basketball player and you start and like there's fouls, there's how you dribble, where you pass, like basket shooting, there's so many information. So it takes some time for our bodies to go in like full automatic mode. But we have that, for example, when we drive. It's the same thing. And when you're driving, you're
Makes
talking,
sense.
you're on the phone, you're never thinking about, okay, clutch, gear,
Yeah, all
gas.
automatic.
Yeah, it's all automatic. And this is exactly the regime where you want to operate in. But in freediving, because there's not so much more to do, and because physiologically you have this thing called mammalian dive reflex. So when you dive, immediately the central nervous system shifts into parasympathetic side. You have lower heart rate, lower blood pressure. You have different changes with the spleen, with the lungs, with the blood. It centralizes, and this all affects that we more or less immediately go into this state. And this is what gets people really hooked onto it, because they feel it on their first day, on their first course. They realize that, okay, with a little bit relaxation, they can hold their breath for, 3-4 minutes sometimes. And they're like, wow, this is like super crazy biohacking. It's not. It's really natural for all of us. So this is something that's different, because you can immediately feel that, and immediately we need to go into that state in order to perform. But otherwise, you will have these shifts of focus and defocus in all other sports, just usually on a much higher level.
Okay, well, recently you went to Baikal.
That's what kind of got you on our radar. Like I
Yeah,
said, I
you're-
transited your blog before,
Yeah.
but like in March this year, we
You're
all
on
had
the
it in
show
the news.
we saw the
Yeah.
Baikal thing and we said,
Yeah.
wow, there's a Croatian guy there and look what he did. So
Good mission accomplished.
Yeah, it was awesome.
congratulations, by the way.
Yeah.
Was it 55 meters, right?
Oh, wait a sec.
62,
Oh,
75.
Sanda went
Yeah,
55.
But the thing is that this is Siberia, Lake Baikal, the deepest, and it's frozen.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, just getting to Siberia must have been something else.
Yeah, for sure. Especially now with all the restrictions in Russia and everything. But to be honest, that record is like in the warm up I did 75 meters, and then the record I did 62. So it's not on the peak of my abilities. But the purpose of these ice records is exactly this: to get attention of the media.
Yeah.
Because normally when I do, I don't know.
So you're clickbait. That's what
Yeah.
you're saying.
Because it's not sanctioned, or is it Guinness?
It is sanctioned. It's
Oh, yeah,
sanctioned
okay.
by a Russian Federation.
Okay.
Oh, but not by AIDA or...
CMAS.
No, AIDA doesn't have it. CMAS has it, but it's extremely complicated. You really need to want it to do it in CMAS, and it's much lower. The Russians are, I think, like if you have to choose one to sanction it, the Russians are the ones to do it.
Okay.
They lifted ice diving to a, let's say, proper competitive
Yeah.
level,
So they cut a hole in the ice, right?
basically.
The water's 1 degree, probably, or it's
Just
not below
above.
0. It's fresh water.
1 to 2.
Yeah. You get in. What's the difference besides the temperature? Is there any difference
No.
in a free dive. So the
No.
temperature is the only.
It's the only,
Difference.
but
Different
it's,
equipment,
It's a
different-
big difference. Yeah, it is a huge difference. First of all, so what we talked about before, like how you get into that, how you trigger the reflex for diving. One of the things that triggers it is the temperature.
Okay.
So one is inertia, like water inertia, especially facial inertia. One is the buildup of your carbon dioxide in the body, and one very important one is temperature. So in cold water, you have a much better dive response, which could mean that you will dive better, and some people maybe even will. Like probably the best static could be done in like sub-zero conditions or something like that. No one tried, as far as I know. So that's one thing, and for me, that makes it harder because naturally I have a really strong dive response, and when I'm in that cold water, it's too strong. It creates trauma on my
see.
lungs,
Yeah.
and it creates a thickening of my lung walls. So it's even harder for me to, let's say, recover after a dive. But yeah, it's nothing extreme, nothing dangerous. Another thing that makes it more difficult is the gear. So
A dry suit, obviously.
no, it's a wetsuit, but it's much thicker. You need more weight. You have gloves. Everything is just much more. You have the mask. You cannot use a nose clip really. It's much more complicated and more stressful in a way. I really enjoyed it, and for me, I really hope to go back and do it more because I underestimated a little bit the complexity of mental preparation in such an environment. So I think it's going to be really good training in the future to go into these extreme conditions. I've done dives before, records on the ice before, but they were always length records.
And that's your strongest discipline, right?
Well, recent years
Dynamic.
I've quit serious pool competing, but yeah, all my world records were dynamic.
Well,
So
okay.
that
Yeah.
actually interested me about the Baikal one. So that
Yeah.
was down.
Yeah.
Again, like you mentioned early on, diving was natural to you as a kid and this and that. And it was always, for instance, I have a fear of the big blue. As soon as I can't see what's beneath me in the water, I got a problem. In Baikal, it must have been different. That must be pitch black.
Yeah, it's quite pitch
It,
black.
it doesn't bother you at all.
No. I don't have an issue with that.
Okay. Can you run us through like a typical free dive?
Depth or distance?
I mean,
Depth.
how does it
Yeah.
work? Depth.
Who
Oh,
cares
depth.
about distance? Come on.
Well, no, distance is good because it sets records and
Well, no, it's
you put us
boring,
on the
come
map,
on.
right?
You're like a hamster. Back and forth.
But
Hamster.
there's so many disciplines, right? You have constant weight, no fins, monofin,
wrap my head
bifins.
around all the disciplines.
I got them all here, but it's like
So
you can't really go
basically
through them all.
there's 4 in the pool and 4 in depth, and the sport is divided into these 2 segments. Then there's many like stunt disciplines with Guinness, with variable weight, no limit. There's a bunch of things, but let's say the main sport disciplines, which people actually compete for, are divided into 4 pool and 4 depth ones.
Okay.
So in the pool, it's always getting distance. It's just about which kind of gear you use. Are you
Yeah.
using bifins or monofin or no fins? And there's a 4th discipline, which is static, which is just for the longest time underwater.
Holding your breath.
So you just hold your breath on the surface as much as you
How
can.
long can you hold your breath like that?
10:08.
I just did my PB at 10:08 this February, I think.
What about this using oxygen and then trying for 20 minutes you were talking about?
I am going to attempt that. So the 10-minute breath hold, I've never actually tried static breath hold properly. So the last 6 months before that, I was focused on that. And then when I did my 10-minute, that was like just a stage in preparing for the oxygen one. The oxygen one, I'm hoping that's going to be like 25, 30 minutes maybe. Which
Wow.
is a completely different discipline. First, it's not a competitive discipline.
How
And
dangerous is that?
I think it's not, but realistically, not enough people tried it and pushed it far enough so that we can say it's safe or it's dangerous. Like in many things, medicine doesn't really have a proper answer. This is why when I started like exploring the depths, I had so many traumas on my lungs and so many things were happening and no one could explain them properly. So I started to research that with the research center in Rijeka in the medical university. And now we work together closely for years. We've published many papers and we've actually found some answers, but there's so many things more that it's impossible to find. We just don't have the diagnostics tools. even when we have them, we cannot bring them to depth. So some answers are just impossible to say, like this one. This is extreme hyperoxia, and no one really knows what will happen when you accumulate enough CO2 for it to become toxic. Will the oxygen become toxic? Will your lungs start collapsing eventually because you're using the oxygen and there's no nitrogen to act as an inert gas and to preserve your volume of your lungs? No one ever has been there, so it's kind of, pioneering something.
All right, I never, ever, ever again in my life want to hear anybody say anything about dumb jocks.
Yeah.
I need like a thesaurus to follow this one.
This is it's fascinating.
It
Like,
is.
I was trying to ask for like a typical free dive, depth dive.
Yeah. That's
You
good.
get in the pool, then what happens? What do
Or you're
you
not
have?
in the pool usually.
Or sorry, the pool.
Yeah.
The
That's a big pool, man.
the water.
They have them, but
The
it's,
water. You what do you have to do to go down, come back up for it to be a recognized dive?
Okay, so for me, let's say I'm going on, I don't know, my deepest dive was 125. So let's say before that, generally I will want to have around 1 hour before to be on the location, just to allow myself to gear up and to be, let's say, slow motion about anything that I will do. So I don't want to stress about anything. I don't want to rush about anything. Many times it will happen, but ideally I want to avoid that. And I have a certain pattern that I will always reproduce and that I teach my athletes to do as well. So it needs to be something directly connected with something that I can fully control. So for me, it's the way I drink water, the way I put on my suit, when exactly I put on my suit, am I going to toilet or not, when I'm resting, when I'm packing, which is like stretching my lungs a little bit before I dive. And then I'm going to the dive line around 5 minutes before my dive. Okay. And that's always going to be exactly the same pattern in the way I like gear up. And I use this in other sports as well. For example, in weightlifting, I always had exactly the same pattern. And then my brain already starts recognizing this as getting into that zone where there I need to be super sharp and heightened in weightlifting, but in freediving, I need to be super relaxed, defocused, and chill about what I'm about to do. 5 minutes before I dive, I'm going to connect my lanyard, which is like a line on my hand or on my foot or on my belt, which is holding me to a line in case everything goes to hell and they have to fish me out with a rope. I connect that. I usually use floating devices so I can lie on the surface and be perfectly at ease. And I'm going to have really specific breathing patterns and somatic control patterns in which I will try to regulate my emotional status and anything that my sensors like kind of catch. So it can be sound, it can be feeling, it can be temperature, salinity, taste, smell, like all of that I'm going to blend into one big nothingness because I literally want my body to go completely autopilot. And for me, generally, this is where it gets tricky for people because it gets stressful. It's not so easy. For me, it's amazing. I love it. It's like vacation. I finally don't have to think about anything. I have one very specific and very simple task to do. And for me, this is a relief. It's like beautiful.
Wow.
Then I get a countdown. From 2 minutes on, I get a countdown. And then between 0 and plus 30 seconds, I have to start my dive. Once I started, I'm moving on the vertical line going down, either with fins or pulling on the rope or without fins. And if I make the depth, I will find a plate with tags there. And I need to grab one tag and bring it to the surface to the judges. And first I need to perform a protocol saying that I'm in good consciousness and demonstrate a tag. The tag is kind of sufficient nowadays, but it's like a symbolic gesture from the past because now we have sonars, you have a camera down there, I have an official gauge that's gonna report my depth. But in order for the dive to be perfectly valid without any negative points, I need to bring a tag. I need to remain in my conscience and present on the surface for 30 seconds.
Removing the mask, giving the okay sign.
Removing any facial equipment, giving the sign, saying verbally, I'm okay. And then I wait for the judge's call. And basically it's super simple. The thing that makes it slightly complicated, let's say, is going down, you need to find a way to equalize your ears. And then this is something that requires a lot of practice if you're not like naturally talented for that. And this means that you need to get really good with micromotorics in your mouth, like how your larynx, like this part, can operate, how your tongue can operate, how your cheeks and mouth, your soft palate. And you need to be able to really precisely move that air around, because what's going to happen, this is going to become negative. Like the pressure is going to compress as you go more down because of the pressure around, and it's going to get vacuumed. So your lungs are getting really smaller and smaller, and they're going to be like fist size at 100 meters. And now they're, I don't know, my lungs are about 6-7 liters right now when I'm just talking to you. So it's a huge vacuum, and that vacuum is trying to suck out the air from my mouth. So I must not allow that. Like any small mistake that I do is going to create a leak, and I'm going to lose air that I need to equalize my ears. So that's going to be my main focus going down. That body position, speed, line orientation, and relaxation. It's always relaxation. And going up is just like you have to muscle through it. Because going down, you're going to free fall most of the time. You're going to be negative. When you lose buoyancy from your chest, you're just falling down.
That happens, what, after like 10 meters?
Depends on the discipline and how you're weighted, but between 10 and 20 meters, you're going to just be rapidly falling down, picking up more and more speed, which is the best part of the dive, because you don't have to do anything. You just fall like a brick.
Yeah.
But when you collect the tag, you have to go back up. So this is where you need your muscles to be at work.
And
need
your
to-
discipline and all that. Because
Yeah.
basically before your dive, you're saying, I'm gonna try and get to 100 meters. I'm gonna try and get to 80, 85 meters, right? So basically the platform with the tags is already set at
It's
that
preset,
depth.
yeah.
Yeah.
You need to announce it, yeah.
Yeah, you need to announce it. So let's say you're feeling in your top form, you're feeling your best, and you get to the tag. Can you say I'm gonna push it for another 5 meters?
No.
Is there another thing? That's it.
No.
Do you get tempted?
No,
No,
not really.
nothing, huh? Just-
No, I don't have any.
Because it's outside of the
It's
pattern or what?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
okay.
don't
Yeah.
I don't have thoughts, emotions. Sometimes I do, and sometimes there is, like, you get tangled on a ghost line or something. Of course, you're going to get like your mind together and figure it out. But generally, if everything is working well, I'm not gonna think about anything, consider anything. Sometimes I'm not gonna even remember what happened. It's gonna be like fully autopilot. I'm
Yeah,
never gonna
okay.
walk out of my
Cool.
pattern.
Yeah.
And even if I want to, I cannot go further.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah. And then you get the white card or the white flag, the yellow flag or
Yeah.
red one, depending
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, if there is like, if I turn early, I'm allowed to turn early.
Yeah.
If there's a problem or I
You can't equalize
feel
or
scared,
whatever.
pressured, anything, I can always turn early and go back up. So then I'll get a yellow card and a reduction of points. Or if I lose the tag, I do the depth, everything, and everything is on camera, but I still lose the tags somewhere. Yeah, that's a yellow card.
Even touching the rope as well, or what?
Touching the rope, if it's just a grab, it can be a yellow card and deduction of points.
Yeah.
But if I use it in Finn's discipline, I use the rope to progress,
Right.
that's
yeah.
a red card.
Okay.
So that's a disqualification. Or like a blackout is a disqualification, mistake in the protocol is a red
Have
card.
you seen blackouts happen?
Yeah, of course.
Shallow water blackout or?
Anything, shallow, deep, surface. It's part of the business.
And you
What is
have
it? Hypoxia or something?
Yeah, generally, yeah.
you have safety divers all the way at the platform on the bottom, or?
No, that
No.
would be crazy. If
Yeah,
you
I
have
guess
Yeah,
the.
they would have to go all the way.
Yeah.
No, the safety divers meet you in the last 30, 40 meters, something
Okay.
like that. It needs to be something that's very safe for them.
Yeah.
But for you, generally, if everything's going well, it's sort of like minimum chance of you not making it back to, let's say, 20 meters. It needs to be a huge mistake for you to black out at 40 meters. And if it happens beyond of safeties, then there's the counterweight system that's going to fish you out with the rope, with everything. So there's like, it's pretty safe. If it's done correctly, it's a very safe sport. One of the reasons why I went into the sport is I was quite broken from other sports, like injuries, and the amount of training you need to invest in other sports is extreme. Like now I feel like I'm, in my retirement phase.
Just going for a swim. Yeah.
Yeah, you cannot break anything in freediving. Like the worst
Yeah.
thing that can happen is a
could break your
blackout, and
eardrums.
that's just you recover super fast. You don't even know it happened. Yeah, your eardrums, you can rupture your eardrums, but it's a very silly injury. Sometimes it heals within 2 days, and it's fine.
Have you ever done no limit, like with the sled,
Just for fun.
just for fun?
Yeah,
Okay.
nothing.
Was it fun?
I did it really briefly, so it was very new. I'm not sure if I would portray it as fun, but I see a potential in that. There is a different one. No Limit is extremely expensive and complicated. So I only had one opportunity to actually try and do it, and we were doing it on a research. So I did it, but I had to take out my own blood at the same time, so I couldn't really focus on the fun part. So I did that, but I'm looking to do maybe end of this year a variable world record. I'm going into this. I'm going to stop my competitive career. I need a break, and also I see that no one really cares if I become world champion 10 times or do another world record.
The home team.
We
cares.
care.
No, but you see,
That was such an American moment. Dude, we care.
yeah, but I came here because you saw an ice dive, and I
Yeah.
do ice dives just because of this, so that
Yeah.
you start caring.
Yeah.
Well, it definitely doesn't get enough coverage. I would watch this on TV if they had it.
It's extremely boring.
I don't think so. No, I don't.
It is. Trust me.
Are you kidding me? The guy's going down. It's getting dark down there.
yeah, that's one
I
guy.
can't go down to get a shell at 3 meters. I'm getting pulled back up already.
But you need a
Quit-
commentator
yeah.
that's going to be able to give this kind of depth.
Well, I don't
You know
want a
what I mean?
golf commentator
Exactly.
all quiet.
Because my commentary would be like, that looks scary.
Yeah, but you have some.
He's approaching the mark.
I just showed.
And that's exactly how it sounds. It's extremely boring. It's like 5 hours of people doing exactly the same thing, and it's just
No, I
after
would-
you
competition,
sit
but
through
there's fun videos. I just showed Branko the video
Yeah.
of Guillaume Neri in Dean's Blue Hole.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
he's standing on the
there's fun
edge and he
videos,
goes
yeah.
down. That is
Well, I
pretty
saw
awesome.
He
But
had a
that's not
video
sport.
too. He's doing a deep one in Mexico.
Yeah, there's many.
You went
from
in those
Mexico.
holes, the freshwater hole.
Yeah. Like lately, I'm focusing more on that, like content underwater, and it gets much more noticed than sport
Yeah.
results.
Yeah.
Sure.
As well as these, like if I go to the press or a sponsor somewhere and I say, "Hey, dude, I did a dive under ice. It was super cold. It was 1 meter of ice. It's crazy," and they're like, "Dude, it's really crazy." But if I tell them I did a 300-meter dive in the pool, I guess
Nobody
that's
cares.
hard. Yeah, the only thing they ask is like, "How much can you hold your breath then?"
Yeah. Okay.
So that's the only
Yeah, I guess that's
place
the
where people
question.
can get a reference a little bit. Like, I can do a minute, and if he can do 10, he must train. But yeah, those things like variables where you go much deeper than competitive diving, or under ice stuff, or crazy stunts like oxygen stunt with Guinness, those get attention.
Yeah.
And then in the end, I mean, attention is something that you can monetize a little bit.
Yeah.
And when you lose passion for, I mean, you don't lose passion so much, but I like changing things. And then when I come to a point in sport where I don't see any great room for progress in terms of exploration, but it's just like, okay, now it's hardcore training if I want to progress, it becomes a little bit boring. So probably I'll go in this direction to make it more interesting.
So right now you clearly have sponsors, right?
Yeah.
And they cover your trips. Let's say you just came back from the Philippines. Does that cover everything, or are you?
Depends. And generally, like if I have a contract, I get some money, but then how am I going to spend it? It's up to me. And currently, I think I'm in a good position that I have a sort of small legacy that I can live on my old results for a while and create new content, create new disciplines, focus more on organization part of things, stunts, things like that. So we'll see how it works. I can always go back to competing if I really want to.
The underwater content does sound fun, though. There's lots of videos. That's
It
the
looks
one
crazy down there.
in
This
Egypt
thing-
with the arch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
In Mexico, there's these, I guess they're waterlogged trees down there. He's walking all over them, walking like it's crazy.
Yeah.
It looks fantastic.
Well, I see like there's so much room with the visual addition.
Absolutely.
to
Oh,
pull people in.
You're in the exotic locations.
Exactly. right?
Yeah, absolutely.
crazy, yeah.
There's so many different underwater scenarios and places we haven't probably even seen. And then just the feeling of having no weight and being in space, it does give you a certain freedom to move and perform, and it gets really interesting. I enjoy it.
What would be just like, this is kind of maybe a little bit stupid, but I'm actually curious. What would be your favorite place to dive in Croatia, and the favorite place you've ever gone for a dive globally?
Well, that's not super easy, because when people think about favorite places, they usually think what's most fun and things to see. And the problem with my sport is that now I was 2 months in Philippines, and not once I went out to see the beach or to see some fishes or a shark or a whale shark or something like that. So for me, it's a business trip, and every day in the morning I have to get up, I have to go to the platform, I have to dive or safety someone or organize something. And then when I'm done with that, I'm exhausted. I just want to be in air condition, eat and sleep, and wait for the next day. So then when I look for locations, I look for really good conditions, and I look for safety. So let's say currently for freediving purposes, Roatan is really good in the Caribbean. And it has a hospital. It's really beautiful, clear water. It can be with no current. I would say, yeah, if budget is not an issue, probably Roatan. If budget is an issue, probably Philippines. But that being said, I don't really see much. I know that there's good things to see there as well. But let's go into what would like be a touristy thing now. When I retire, when I will go, Baja California in Mexico is a huge bay with so much marine life that it's just insane. We have a camp this summer there, and I'm really hoping to like get the whole shebang. It's
Freediving camp.
yeah, it's whales, it's manta rays, it's seals, it's marlins. It's like a whole big pot of everything around you.
Yeah.
So I'm really hoping to experience this, because I'm in the sea all the time, but I never see anything. Like I don't have. I saw one shark diving down the line in Roatan once, and that was like my highlight of the day.
As opposed to no,
Highlight of
most
it.
people would be scared. Oh wow, look, a shark.
Oh, well, I'm going back up.
I mean, the chances of you just seeing a shark without him being like lured over with some food bait
fishing,
or something like that is incredible, and then he attacking you is even more incredible. Especially if you're just free diving, it's really nothing for him to do.
Yeah.
He's probably just gonna be scared. Then there's Tonga with whales. It's
Humpback
really
whales, yeah.
magical. I was there a long time ago, and it's a magical place. The warm seas are more interesting generally. So somewhere around Caribbeans, like you mentioned Bahamas with sharks and dolphins, like Bimini close to Florida is really spectacular. Yeah, those would be, I think, globally the first things that come to my mind, like Bahamas. There's good stuff in the Philippines as well, Tonga and areas around there. Yeah, that would be great. In Croatia, on the other hand, I mean, those places are actually one of the few hotspots where you actually have fish to look at. But the oceans are dying at a very, very rapid rate. We are not really aware how dangerous this is, because losing one species, for example, apex predator or something, it very quickly degrades and cascades into losing everything. And then when you don't have everything in a specific bay or anything, there's nothing to move the water around anymore. The plankton dies and everything just becomes a pond. And with that becoming a pond, the planet is like out of oxygen. So literally the atmospheric changes and everything around us is going to change. And we're not talking about like 100 years from now. We're talking about potentially 20 years. So there is an immediate danger happening currently around the oceans, which we are, I don't know why, not really aware of. And in Croatian Sea, you can see this change already. Like, I don't know if any one of you saw a fish in the last 5 years in the Adriatic Sea bigger than this.
I saw one at Lastovo about 5 years ago.
Yeah,
That was the last time,
Lastovo
yeah.
is like one of the
Yeah.
hotspots in Croatia, but Yeah, it's really really not easy to find fish in Adriatic, and the fishing industry is just taking more and more. And I'm not sure where it's going to lead to. So in Croatia, seeing something, Lastovo, yet maybe, but you still have to be skilled to see something or go on a scuba tour where they have like specific fish they feed in a rack or something like that. Yeah, getting like casually encountering something in the ocean is
Yeah.
not going to be easy. South Croatia is going to be more transparent than North, although I really like the North as well. The island of Rab is really beautiful. And on the south, I guess Lastovo, yeah. Lastovo is really, really beautiful. I really like being on Lastovo. Not just the ocean, but the island and everything.
Cool.
So you have the Adriatic Depth Trophy coming up.
Yeah, we do it every year. We do it on the island of Krk, and it's going to happen on the 18th of June this year.
This is a national.
This is going to be a national championships, yeah.
How many people in Croatia are involved in this?
Year-to-year basis. This year we have almost 25 people that applied. I think it's going to be super messy. I hope someone will not come because we can handle about 20 realistically. So it's going to be really booked. And on top of that, we're going to do research as well. We're going to do some metabolites after diving. So we always do some kind of research just to use the opportunity to have people around. So yeah, it's gonna be great and a good party after. And yeah, I like doing it. It's a lot of work, but yeah, in the end, it's the only way to get some people together and to offer something. We're the only ones who actually do depth competitions in Croatia. When I took over IDA Croatia as the president, that was like my mission. I was like, if we're gonna have a diving federation without doing depth competition, it's a little bit ridiculous. So that was kind of our mission, and we are successful at it. I hope that someone who comes behind me is going to keep the tradition.
And I know it's an individual sport, but you guys obviously have a Croatian team, and you travel around as a team, or is it kind of like Vitomir is going here and?
It depends. Can be both ways. Of course, there's a national team like in every sport, and our depth national team has been probably the most successful one in the last few years.
Globally.
Yeah, we were kind of lucky sometimes that the other team, because there's teams that are much bigger, like Russian team, French team, they come with 20 people. So, and lately we're just the three of us, Petar, me and Sanda, but we managed to get some medals. So when you count the medals, we're most successful again. And because we push things to depths that are already becoming a little bit extreme, it's not easy to find people that can actually support that from a safety point of view. There's no medical specialization or education on what to do with a guy with lung barotrauma. It's non-existent. So we have to kind of take care of each other, and that's why generally we do travel as a team lately.
Is there like a camaraderie? I've always found when looking into individual and not what you would call like a common sport, that the people that are competing in that, despite the fact that they're competing against each other, and in this situation also you're competing against yourself, I would say.
Of course.
But is there a camaraderie in the community? So like you know the Russian divers, you know the French divers,
To a certain extent, but I would say that this is a very hostile environment in freediving. In other sports, there's always like a balance of it, but comparing it, for example, with free climbing or something like that, it's definitely more hostile. I would say it's because people in freediving are generally, brings us back to the beginning where I said, like, when I came, I had a huge sport background, so I didn't have any issues with competing or stress about competition or physical preparation or anything else. But people that were there, they were kind of brought into the sport at a very late age and without any previous sport experience. And sport is something that's great physically, but it's actually an educational tool. First and foremost, kids learn how to win, how to lose, and how to congratulate the winner, and they understand, okay, I didn't win because I need to invest more, I need to train harder, and then I decide, do I want it or I not want it? And there's 1,000 other kids in football that they also wanted more. So it's very clear to them at the age of 15 or 20, okay, there is a reason why I'm not playing in La Primera or Premiership or Bundesliga. There's a very good reason behind it.
Yeah.
First, I'm not good enough. Second, I didn't invest myself enough. And it's obviously painfully clear why are you not in the basketball national team or things like that. In freediving, it becomes really blurry. First, people jump into it at a very late age because it's a sport that you can do. You can, like, there was a guy I was coaching last year. I forgot. I think he's 82. And he was diving. He was trying to catch 100 meters. I think his PB was 96 meters of depth. So assuming you have some physical form and mental clarity to do it, like you can do this at a very old age. The new record in static, the girl that did it, 9:22, which is amazing. I think she's like 50 or 60 or something like that. So it's something that you can actually progress all your life, and you can jump in whenever you want. And it's such a small sport that, you know, people come into it from a country where it's undeveloped. Immediately they do a national record. And immediately they're part of the national team. And immediately, sometimes their first competition, as long as they can afford it, is the World Championships. And then you know, immediately you're in this zone. Okay, I'm a national athlete. I'm an athlete. What does it doesn't make you an athlete just by showing up and paying your fee for the World Championship. Like saying I'm an athlete is just like saying I'm a singer. You're not really a singer if you sing under the shower. It's quite different.
Yeah.
So, and here people get this this idea of participating in a high level event, a competition, and they get a lot of expectations, and they see themselves, then identify themselves through these results and through these roles of being an athlete, being a national record holder, or strive for the world record, and then they think it's close, national record, world record. Well, I'm just going to try a little bit more. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. But I think it plays with their ego a lot, and it does get to this hostile environment for sure, and it's very evident. I'm not sure if there is any country in the world that doesn't have like huge discrepancies between communities inside the country. It's like many times you have 20 divers in the country and 6 clans. They're all, you know, having something against each other or doubting that one, or it's sometimes on the surface is like all nice, but many times it's quite hostile. It gets really interesting.
Jeez, that's interesting.
For me, I really enjoy my community, and I couldn't do it if I didn't. First, because I have to feel safe with them, and second, like I brought Petar into the sport. He's now the deepest man on earth, and he surpassed my results. And I started training him from nothing because I needed someone to be good to push me. It became really dull for me to train on my own, to go on to competitions, and not to have anything to chase. So having him to like be first close to me, then surpass me, and now I have to chase him, I think that's the only thing that kept me in the sport for the last several years. It wouldn't be like when I see him, then I'm like, maybe I can push a little bit more. Like even knowing that I'm not going to reach him, like he gives me motivation to like push something better out of me as well.
Well, it's the same in the weight room. If you've got your spotter,
No,
the guy you're
absolutely,
working with,
Exactly.
he's going to push you for that extra
Exactly.
set, right?
And I just transferred that mentality into freediving. Like I had it in every other sport. And for me, it's always great. But yeah, I see that many people would just prefer that they're just alone on the competition. But then it's not a competition. It's not. You lose the fun of sports.
Yeah. Nicola, I know you wanted to ask about Dean. I'm going to get this wrong. Dean's Blue Hole.
Yeah. Well, basically only because I was working and living in the Bahamas for 5 years, and I always wanted to get to Long Island and get to the Dean's Blue Hole. And then, like I mentioned I showed Branko the video of Guillaume Neri going down the hole, and I saw that recently. Well, 2 years ago, you had a competition there. Is it still considered one of the better competitions or the vertical blue? What is it called?
Yeah, it's the vertical blue. It's definitely one of the most known competitions, and the Blue Hole is definitely one of the best, if not the best place to freedive in the planet.
It's right off the beach. It's literally right
off
there.
the beach, and it's literally a hole like going 200 meters down. So every time when you're diving in the sea, you have currents, there's things that you need to take into account that's not going to be in line with your intention to dive deep. So it's going to be disturbing, let's say. But the blue hole is like a giant pool. Like the water is super still. So there is no, let's call it friction. But you can be perfectly hydrodynamic. Like you throw a rock and it's going to land exactly where you threw it. It's not going to happen in the ocean. It's always going to have some movement and shifts and up and down. So this is a place where everyone is kind of trying to get to and do their results. This is like a plus side of the Dean's Blue Hole. There is a negative side. The negative side is that it's really remote, super expensive. It doesn't have a hospital, and for many people, they got like put down because the event manager is kind of running it as a small dictatorship. So many of the best athletes got into a fight with him and don't want to show up there anymore.
Trubridge, right?
Yeah, that's William Trubridge. So it was canceled last year, and this year I think it's happening, but they don't have video coverage. I think they're struggling financially also. I believe personally it's just about bad management because the location is extremely good, and you don't have to have a boat, you don't have to have anything. It's literally a
You
platform.
put
off
on
the
your
beach.
Speedo and you just walk off the beach.
It's literally there,
That's wild.
and you don't need to worry about cancellations or anything because it's like the conditions are always perfect. It's really, really incredible. I hope that in the future there's going to be more organizers that are going to like take on that spot and then work something with it. And hopefully there's going to be more things to do, more infrastructure around to make it more fun and safer. Because many times you go for training and then if you spend a month in Dean's Blue Hole, the diving is extremely good, but everything else is you just want to shoot yourself. There is nothing. There is a bar and a store. And the store usually doesn't have supplies because it restocks on Tuesdays. So if you don't buy everything by
the
Wednesday,
mailboat has to come in. Yeah.
like you don't have anything.
Yeah.
I don't know. Bar.
I was living on a little more developed island, but not very far away. I was living on San Salvador, and the same thing. You have to rely on the mailboat coming in.
Yeah, so you know
Yeah.
that. And then
Yeah.
I guess it's normal when you just have the community living there because it's kind of, what they expect and this is how they restock. But then you have an influx of 80 new people competing or safety and coaches something, and then everything just is gone.
Yeah.
It's not existent. But it is definitely a really, really cool location, and I did some nice dives over there. Yeah, it's one of the best locations for sure. But like I said, when I scout a location, I definitely want to have a hospital there. I want to have like a community that can actually help and assist professionally in something.
Yeah.
This is a really, really remote location.
Branko just mentioned something that just triggered something in my brain. Back in the day when I was a young active man, I was involved actively in sports at a relatively high level, nothing close to this. But we did drink on weekends. It was the team went out and drank on weekends. I'm assuming are you strictly off any kind of alcohol, anything like that?
Yeah, only drugs.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah, which stuff?
Can you hook me up?
Yeah, I think it's like a matter of habit and personal preference. Like in other sports, I had periods where I was playing at a quite good level, and I was getting hammered every weekend, especially after games or something.
Exactly.
Well, that goes with team sports, though, right?
Yeah. But I personally found that kind of built camaraderie in the team.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
This is different. And I see you're constantly talking about this, this focus, this being
Checklist
zen, the checklist, this and that. I'm just assuming there's no room for alcohol.
We got a lot of critique actually because when we coach people or we go to a competition and then pre-com trainings or something, we usually bring a bottle of whiskey, and then we do shots when someone does a PB. And people always do PBs, so you can do a lot of shots.
Yeah.
But I think it's great to celebrate. I mean, you don't have to get wasted, but just to make a small event out of it and to take some time to appreciate. Oh, great! You did something good. Let's all do a little celebration for that. And make a mental note on that. I think it's really motivating for people. And some people, of course, there's always people in the community that are going to point fingers and say stupid things. But I actually like it. I think it's really good for what you say, like team building and making something more valuable for, so to speak. I haven't been seriously drinking in quite a while. I mean, there's a party here and there, but I'm so focused on business now, and I guess I'm at an age where I don't handle it too well.
Yeah.
Like, and then if I know I'm going to need 2 or 3 days to recover, and then I'm very careful how I'm going to.
Yeah.
Like before, I would get wasted, and the next day I would go to the gym, and it was all good.
Yeah.
But
And get
now
wasted
it's
again,
I know that there's going to be a backlash of that.
There's a penalty coming.
Hope for only one personal best. Otherwise, we're going to, oh, another personal best. Let's go.
All right. Super cool.
Yeah. So where can people find you? What's your next step? You said you're going to retire maybe from active competition, at least for a while. Like, what's your next?
Yeah, I think
Where can we see you?
a couple of years ago, I retired from international competitions in the pool, and that was a good decision. It opened up some time, but now I'm again missing a little bit of time. So I think I'm going to retire this year from international depth competitions. I'm still going to perform special competitions, special invitations, local events, our events, but these are the things that I don't have to go to Philippines for a month for that. So I think I'm going to do that, and I'm very happy and confident about that decision. I'm still going to stay in the sport as an instructor, educator, author, definitely as a coach, and I'm going to be involved for sure. What's next? I'm going to focus more on these special projects. Like the upcoming one in June is going to be the Guinness Breath Hold we talked about. Then there's the competition. Then we have summer camps in Lastovo. Those are an opportunity either for professionals to train or for people who just want to try it to come and do a course and get some education on it.
How can they get the course? How can they? Is it on your web page or what?
Yeah, anyone who can contact through webpage or Instagram, social media, and any place. I'm gonna direct them into the booking page. They basically come and depending on their motivation or level or anything, they can do a completely beginner course or a very advanced. Or many people, when they realize that this is a very, very natural and intuitive discipline, they do the first course and then they book straight up to the instructor course, and they switch their careers usually very quickly. So it's a very common thing. It is an enjoyable activity.
Because you do see results quick. I took a course. I took a free diving course. I forget who the instructor was. And you're basically in the pool, and he says, "Okay, hold your breath," and you hold your breath in the water. And I held it, I don't know, maybe minute 10. Then he's like, "Okay, once you feel the burning in the lungs, you gotta mentally pass that, and blah blah blah." So literally from that to the next time I was holding my breath, I doubled it right there in the pool within 5 minutes. It's nuts. And you kind of, I guess, you get addicted to it and you want to keep going. But
it's nice when you see the results immediately and you see progression immediately, and it was something that you didn't really think you were able to do. So it has that accomplishment feeling, and it drives people a lot. But basically, when you look at it, it's kind of expected. You've never actually been told how to breath hold.
Yeah.
So you don't have tools. It's like getting into a car, not knowing how to put the keys in, and you're pushing the car all the time. And now someone comes and you put the key in, you turn it on, and it works. And then you realize, I have this ability, and it's much more powerful than I think. And as soon as you give people some tools, and as soon as they learn how to take over control of their emotional and mental status, they double, triple their times, and then they see this as a huge potential. And it is basically as a recreational activity. I think it has a lot of impact on anything else that we do, especially with this mental techniques that help you organize your focus or help you with dealing with your emotions, creating emotional attachments, detachments. I think this is very helpful in work environment, and other sports, and basically anywhere.
Well, absolutely. I think going back to your point a little earlier, bringing up kids through sports is a fantastic way. For us personally, we all grew up more or less in Canada, but your sport was attached to your school. So the only way you could play the sport, more or less, I played football. The only way I could play that sport is if I stayed in school. And that's literally why I went to university. I did not go to study. Well, that's fairly obvious. But I mean, I could continue playing football. And it seems to me that this is that same thing of like, it's just a really good environment to get kids off onto a good foot when they're still young.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sport. One of my basic educations is sport. So, and I've learned so much through sport. Like, I think I was a very problematic child, like mentally, emotionally, like disturbed in so many ways, and I see so much benefits. I've been through, of course. I'm a guy that likes to improve and like have some self-criticism, but then also try to be constructive and improve. So I did a lot of different therapies in different ways. And I would say that sport gave me more. Like I understood myself more and grew personally more through different sport experiences and then like reflecting on them than I did through therapy. Probably the blend is the best, but I definitely will never underestimate this power and this factor of sport in a child growing up. With freediving, it's a little bit problematic because it's still not at that stage. Now we are beginning with some kids courses, but it's just in the beginning. So clubs, we barely have clubs for adults around the world. Some are amazing, some are just starting, but it's going to take a while for it to become a sport for kids. And I honestly don't think it's even necessary, because for this sport, like the way you focus is really important, and a kid's focus is dispersed. They want fun, they want action.
Yeah.
And the kids courses are based around fun and actions, chasing things, going through loops and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But what a kid really wants and needs in their formative years is spatial perception, different precision balls, different contacts. This is fun. I mean, even for us, I mean, I can play something for days and I'm never going to get bored. With freediving, you get bored easily. It's it's this thing that's like marathon, you know. You're not going to have a 5-year-old run a marathon. He's just going to shoot himself behind the curve.
All right. Well,
Okay, yeah, let's come up for air.
come up
Yeah.
for yeah. We're,
Thanks a lot for your time, man. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for inviting
This
me.
is
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
interesting. Really, I'm
Outstanding,
so
yeah.
glad we got him on.
Yeah, world champ.
This is fantastic, and hopefully we can do it again sometime in the future.
Absolutely, I think.
I know scheduling might be an issue, but we'll try to work something out.
I know when I get retired, it's not gonna be an issue.
It's all smooth sailing, right?
Yeah, well, this was one of the most comfortable podcasts I've done. It's like really cool to have multiple hosts, and it's Thank
Superb.
you for having me.
Cool.
Thank you very
Excellent.
much.
Thanks for coming.
All right, folks, that wraps up this episode of the Home Team Podcast. And for me, for Branko, for Nikola, and once again, thank you, Vitomir Maričić, freediver, world champion freediver, world record holder freediver, Croatian.
Yeah.
Hang tight, keep it between the ditches. Talk to you later.